God doesn't wake people up early to punish them. He does it to separate them. And if you keep waking up around 5 a.m. without trying, this isn't random. Secret 1. 5 a.m. is one of the only hours where nothing is claiming you yet. 5 a.m. is that strange hour where yesterday is over, but today hasn't fully begun. No one is texting you. No one is expecting you. No problem has demanded your reaction yet. It's one of the only moments in the day where you can think before the world tells you what to think about. Psalm 5:3 says, "In the morning, Lord, you hear my voice." Notice what David is doing. He speaks before the day speaks to him. Later, everything competes for your attention. Conversations shape your mood. Deadlines shape your urgency. Other people's emotions shape your response. But at 5 a.m., none of that has reached you yet. And that matters, because the way your mind forms in the first quiet minutes often determines how you handle the next 12 hours. If the first voice you hear is pressure, you react all day. If the first voice you hear is God, you respond differently. 5 a.m. isn't about productivity, it's about positioning. Secret 2. Early waking exposes who really leads you. When you wake up at 5, your first instinct is rarely spiritual. It's comfort, it's turning over, it's negotiating with the alarm. That moment reveals something simple, what you obey first. Galatians 5:16 says, "Walk by the Spirit." Walking starts with one decision. If your first decision is comfort, comfort usually leads the rest. If your first decision is surrender, something steadier leads instead. This isn't about earning points with God. It's about breaking automatic patterns. Most people move through their mornings without thinking. Phone, news, notifications, reaction. 5 a.m. interrupts that autopilot. And when autopilot breaks, awareness increases. You start the day conscious instead of carried. Over time, that changes more than you realize. Secret 3. God often speaks before movement begins. Most people ask God to bless what they have already decided. They fill the schedule, commit to the meeting, say yes to the opportunity, and then ask for peace afterward. But Scripture repeatedly shows God speaking before action. Isaiah 54 says, "He awakens me morning by morning, awakens my ear to listen." Listening comes before moving. 5 a.m. gives you a window where nothing is rushing you yet. You can actually sit with a thought. You can examine an attitude. You can sense hesitation before it turns into a mistake. If you skip that space, you spend the rest of the day correcting reactions you didn't slow down enough to notice. Clarity early prevents confusion later. Not because God is louder at 5 a.m., because you are less distracted. Secret 4. Early hours create separation without isolation. There's a difference between being alone and being separated. Mark 1:35 says that Jesus rose very early while it was still dark and withdrew to pray. Before crowds formed, before anyone needed healing, before expectations started pulling at him, he stepped away before the day demanded anything from him. 5 a.m. feels similar. No one is watching. No one is applauding. No one is measuring your output. It's one of the only times your identity isn't being shaped by reaction. When you begin the day surrounded by other people's voices, you absorb their urgency. When you begin the day in stillness, you carry your own center into the noise. Separation early prevents confusion later, not because you avoid responsibility, but because you anchor before facing it. Secret 5. Intimacy before responsibility exposes how empty you actually are. Most people don't realize how depleted they are until something small sets them off. You wake up and reach for your phone before your feet hit the floor. Emails, headlines, messages. By the time you stand up, your system is already tense and you haven't spoken to God. Later, a simple comment irritates you. A delay feels personal. You react faster than you meant to. You call it stress. But the truth is simpler. You started the day absorbing pressure instead of grounding yourself in presence. 5 a.m. exposes that. Because when you sit in silence before anything demands you, you feel how restless you actually are. You notice how quickly your mind looks for distraction, and that discomfort reveals something you usually outrun. James 4:8 says, "Draw near to God." Drawing near requires you to slow down. If you skip intimacy and move straight into responsibility, you spend the day holding yourself together instead of being steady, and responsibility will always expose what intimacy never built. Secret 6. Early stillness reveals patterns you usually miss. Most problems don't explode out of nowhere. They start in small reactions you didn't notice. You wake up already replaying conversations. Your mind jumps ahead to what's pending. There's tension before the day even begins, and you assume that's normal. But when you sit quietly early, you begin to see your own patterns more clearly. You notice how quickly comparison shows up. You recognize irritation forming before it shapes your tone. You sense insecurity before it pushes you to prove something. That awareness changes how the rest of the day unfolds. Proverbs says, "Those who seek me early shall find me." Sometimes what you find isn't a dramatic revelation, it's clarity about yourself. 5 a.m. slows you down long enough to see what your pace usually hides, and once you see it early, it doesn't control you later. Secret 7. 5 a.m. changes destiny quietly, not dramatically. Your life will not change because of one early morning, but the way you begin your mornings is quietly shaping the way you live your days. If you meet with God early once, it might feel small, almost unnecessary. But if you keep showing up at that hour, something shifts inside you. You don't jump at every notification. You don't feel as shaken when plans change. You don't carry the same quiet tension into every conversation, not because life suddenly became easier, because you stopped starting it empty. Psalm 121 reminds us that God neither slumbers nor sleeps. If 5 a.m. keeps waking you, don't ignore it. You may not feel breakthrough in that hour. Some mornings will feel ordinary, but over time, sitting with God before the world speaks to you makes you steadier. Harder to throw off balance, less driven by urgency. And that doesn't just change a morning, it changes who you are becoming.